I see these guys come on and they build a YouTube channel based on all lies. So Merlino, I was with him for over a year. Did he know I was a rat? No, he didn't know I was a rat. He didn't know that, obviously. Like, if this is happening all the time, this guy, Wes Watson, why are you hating on Wes? I'm not hating on Wes. You don't have to lie about, oh, I did 10 years in prison. I was on a class 3 yard in California. Actually, you were never in a California penitentiary. Well, you know what's funny is I always love this line. You lying rat. No. I'm actually an honest rat.
Yeah, tell the
You're
truth.
lying because you're
Exactly.
saying that you didn't do it when you did, and you're mad at me because I said you did do it. And so now I'm the lying rat, but I'm not lying. So
Right.
you're really upset because you're a liar and I'm honest. That's what it really is. So what kills me is that I see these guys come on and they build a YouTube channel based on all lies, or they get a memoir, or they get a like, bro, this guy had like a fucking he had a documentary that was being put together on him. He I forget who it was. It was it was like Blackstone Publishing gave him a huge advance. They wrote a book. It was massive.
Right.
It was a huge deal. And then when it did Ron English, I think that's his name. And
is this guy out of England? Is he out of England? Ron English?
Probably. Yeah, he's out of the UK somewhere. But I mean, he did his and it blew up. So then when it blew up, it's like, wow, your bullshit's really working. But guess what? The problem is it's about to work against you.
Yeah.
And then it did. It suddenly, it was so, and listen, this guy he's good. Tears up, cries at certain moments, talks about how Whitey Bulger's gang came and got him from his father and trained him to be a killer. And I mean, it's just insane.
Right.
And anyway,
he didn't really have a lot of problems doing all that himself.
Right. But he went to prison for 23 years. It's like, you went to prison for 6, like 3 years in the state, 3.5 in the feds. And just across the board, it's all bullshit. The only time he was ever accused or arrested or accused of murder or attempted murder was when he choked his wife out, or baby's mama out, and she passed out. And then
1-800-choke-a-hoe.
Yeah. So it just it's just ridiculous, bro. And this guy had and it all went bad. Like, and this is happening all the time. This guy, Wes Watson, these guys. And then what's so funny is, like, people are like, why are you hating on Wes? I'm not hating on Wes. I'm sure Wes is a wonderful fucking human being.
Just don't fucking lie.
But why do you don't have to lie about, oh, I did 10 years in prison. I was on a class 3 yard in California. Actually, you were never in a California penitentiary. You were in Arizona. You were never never in a pen. You were in a medium and a low. Even say you did 7 years. You're just like 6.5, 7 years, not 10. You did, it's like, and I don't care, but
why are they fucking lying? Is it the same deal where you get these people that will admit to being murderers that never did anything? Is it that type of bullshit?
They need the clout. They want the clout to compete with the stories of everybody else. My opinion.
I don't get it.
So look, let me put it this way. I wrote a book about a guy named Marcus Schrenker who jumped out of an airplane. Like, you've heard of him. He, in 2008 financial crisis,
I've heard of him.
Yeah, they raided his office. He took his plane up. He called in a distress signal, jumped out. He was caught 3 days later. I mean,
I was about to say, I thought you meant it was suicide. I was about to say,
no. He said that my windshield spider cracked. Turbulence. Of course, the air traffic controller is like, there's no turbulence. Like, and they're like, look, go, bring the plane down. And, he's going, up, and he's like, then he opens the door and he jumps out. And anyway, he thought the plane was going to go out over the Gulf.
Right.
And instead, because he opened the door, it burned off more fuel, and it ran out of fuel a couple miles shy, and it ended up crashing into like a little swampy area.
Oh, so he was trying to fake his own death?
Fake his own death.
Okay. All right. Now I'm getting it up.
I wrote a memoir about him called Bailout. Okay. Well, here's the thing. He would lie about, one, being a fighter pilot in the it depends. He would never say this to me, but he told everybody else that knew me. And I'm reading articles where he had lied to his neighbors, telling them about how he flew 40 sorties during desert during Desert Storm. During Desert Storm, you were 18. You would have
Right.
been the youngest fighter pilot in history
Right.
in the military. You can't go in the military, go through flight school. First of all, you have to call the college degree. You didn't even graduate till you're fucking 23 or 24. So, that's not true. So, then you have to go through flight school. Then you have to have training. Then you have there's all these things you have to do. So you would have been at most 25, 26, maybe at best. You were 18.
Right.
So the point is he would lie about all these ridiculous things. But here's he also said he worked for NASA. At one point, he was a test pilot for NASA. He also investigated the Challenger.
Now, was he telling you this bullshit as truth too?
No, he's telling other people, but I'm reading about it, but he never addresses it to me while I'm writing his memoir. So I'm finding things out about him, but I'm also talking. People know I'm writing his memoir, and I'm sitting there eating lunch with some guy, and they're like, "You're writing a shrinker's memoir?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Bro, the shit he did in Afghanistan alone is worth writing about." And I'm like, what did he do in Afghanistan? They're like, "You don't know?" I'm like, "No, I don't." And then they'd tell me, and I'd be like, "Yeah, that's par for the course." But here's the problem with him. Pathological liar, obviously. But here's the thing. You have a double major and a master's degree. You have a drop-dead gorgeous wife, 3 beautiful children. You live in a $2.5 million house. You are a pilot, a stunt pilot. You have 2 airplanes, all of which is true, by the way. Okay. You are a you own your own wealth management firm. You're a top tier person on the face, right? I mean, just absolutely like that, and all that's true. Why would you lie about being a fighter pilot, being like all these other things he would just blatantly lie about? And that's kind of like these guys. It's like, look, you went to prison. You went to prison for 7 years. You have a decent crime story. You don't have to embellish it. You don't have to say 7 years is a long time in prison. Doesn't have to be 10.
Right.
You go with your story, the real story, because if you fake it and it blows up on you, you've blown everything. You might have to work a little bit harder, be a little bit more charismatic, but you can do it based on the face value because these guys went to prison.
Right.
So why lie about it? It doesn't.
Yeah, it makes no sense. No sense
right.
at all.
Right.
And not that I desire to have any more, but like I have to put into my part. Everybody's like, well, how long did you have to be in there? I was like, 48 hours.
But it felt longer.
Yeah. I never wanted to go back. I was only in there 48 hours.
First of all, you don't even have to go to prison to have a crime story. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, yours, like, you don't, like, hey, here's what happened. Like when you tell that story, it's fucking riveting.
Yeah.
You've taken one event and you've scrolled it out, including all the little minute details that made it almost a tragedy. In a way, it was a tragedy. It just wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Right.
So these guys, I don't get it. If the problem is they can't really tell their stories, they don't know enough detail, and it falls apart. And there's so many of those guys out there.
Well, the same thing in the mob genre too. And a lot of times you run into people and they've kind of gotten hip to. A lot of people probably know or assume they're lying, but every story involves someone that is no longer with us. So to verify that they're lying is very, very difficult.
Right.
So the question is then, do you just let the son of a bitches talk? Because I've not been that guy. Like Bill O'Hanlon. I let him tell his story. Then I'm like, yeah, let's talk.
Well,
I don't think he thought you had known some of that stuff. He even said, he's like, you sound like the FBI right now.
I'd pulled his indictment. I'd watched his interviews. I'd done all that shit. Had notes on the side.
Hey, this is Matt Cox. I'm putting out a credit course. I'm going to create this course in order to help you legally build your credit so that you can have as much borrowing capacity as is legally possible. If you're interested in the course, go to the description box, click on the link, put in your email address. You will be sent 2 letters. These are letters that I've personally used to help get rid of collections on people's credit. And you will also be notified when the course comes out. I think personally, like, I'm not like, I'll ask some probing questions, but you know, I'm not gonna rip the carpet out from underneath somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not like, it's like, hey, that doesn't make sense, or hey, sounds like you gotta have some problems. Like, I'm gonna give them a little bit of pushback, but
You
you know,
have
keep
a
in
lot of
mind,
you have a
you
lot of schedule too. I mean,
That's
you
true.
only have so much time.
well, not just that, but think about it. Here, look, here's the other problem. If you do that repeatedly, it becomes difficult to get guests.
I agree.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and periodically like people will send me stuff. I'll read some articles. I'll check. They'll send me their indictment. I'll look over some stuff. I don't have time to look over everything. You know,
Right.
if something's completely unreasonable, I'm going to say, you were 14, you bought a car. How did that happen? Like, that doesn't make sense. And then they're like, oh,
Then
well,
they'll
and then
try to
they tell
explain it.
me, you know, then they explain it. They try and come up with whatever it is. Maybe it's true. So, but sometimes it's like, hey, no, well, I didn't buy it. Obviously, I had a guy who went in and bought it. I gave him $500 to do it.
Yeah.
Crackhead. And then, you know, it kind of comes out. It's like, okay, well, you know, whether it's true or not, I can't tell. But it's like, good cover. But I'm not going to just let blatant, ridiculous, you know, bullshit fly.
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah,
I
I
was
can't.
even uncomfortable watching that interview with Brett. So, like, you know, I would have a second thought. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this guy's show or not. He had me
Some
sweating.
bitch. He's asking some questions.
I ain't lying.
So what happened with what was the other guy's name?
Joshua Moses.
Joshua Moses.
He starts telling this, and I let him go a little bit into it. I'm like, dude, how are you using this debit card when it wasn't even available until 2 years after the fraud that you claimed happened? And he looks at me, and I'm like, and we pulled up the site, and then I pulled up the Better Business Bureau of when that card went into business. I was like, this happens. And then I was like, you know, I read your blog. I was like, those are some really good blog. And he's like, yeah, man. I was like, the problem is you didn't write them. And he's like, what are you talking about? So I pull up his blog. I pull up the actual blog of the author who wrote it. It's
Damn,
word for
internet
word.
connections going out. I don't know what.
And he's sitting there the entire time. He's scratching. And I'm like, are you sure you don't have a drug problem still?
Are you? Did you ask him that? No. Listen, I had people in the comment section saying, "Bro, I you know, this guy's still fucking. Something's up with this guy. He's still tweaking, or he's still this, or and you know, I'm like, well, I mean, I don't seemed all right to me, but then I've never really been around drug
internet
addicts.
is horrible, Brett. We're gonna have to do this again.
I gotta go.
Never.
Then tonight, it's not just the bad guys. Tonight, I had these 3 kids from fucking Berkeley. They contacted me last month. They've come out with a security product. I mean, if they were legitimate, it's going to make a shitload of money.
Right.
That recognizes refund fraud. The problem is halfway through our Zoom meeting, because they wanted a consultation from me, 2 of the founders tell me that they used to be refund fraudsters. And I'm sitting there going, okay. So the show tonight is how this public company just launched last fucking week. 2 of the three founders are refund fraudsters. Yeah.
Listen, I'm starting to feel like it's a mistake to confide into Brett. You know, like the next person I say, hey, you should talk to Brett. I'm gonna be like, listen, bro,
you better watch out with that Johnson kid.
Listen.
That son of a bitch is ruthless. He's just trying to make sure he doesn't get any guests.
Yeah, you better have your shit together.
Hey, not to change the subject, but you guys have seen Escape from New York, right?
I love Escape from New York should be nice. Listen.
That's right.
Are you serious? You want to hear something?
What?
I fucking watched about an hour of it probably 2-3 days ago.
I love that fucking movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never, you know what I've never seen? Escape from LA.
You're not missing a damn thing there.
See, I watched about 20 minutes of it one time, and everybody's like, "Oh, I think it's great." And I watched 20 minutes of it. And I said, "Yeah, I can't do it.
It's horrible. Horrible.
I think Escape from New York would be a great remake.
Well, you know, The Rock was supposed to be taking over Snake Plissken's job.
Okay.
But never got off the ground.
So you know what else would be a great remake? Capricorn 1.
Oh yeah. That's a good one.
I've never seen it. What is that?
It's fucking great. It's a great movie. It's about they fake a landing on Mars. Yeah, so they fake it so that the rocket takes off. They take the crew out just beforehand, let the rocket go out, bring them to this location in the middle of the Nevada desert, and they basically say, look, the system that we put in was going to, for your life support was going to work just great till you were about halfway there, and it would have broken. You guys would have died. So we had to pull you off. They're like, yeah, but the ship just went off. Like, we're listening to the radio. People think it went off. They're like, right, we can't cancel it because they already want to cancel the program. We're going to put 3,500 guys out of work. So we're just going to pretend that it actually goes there and lands. And by the way, we've already rebuilt an entire set here. So at that time, people were when that movie came out, people were starting to say like the moon landing had been faked.
Right.
So they use this as hey, what if they did fake like a Mars landing? So then what happens is when they do fake it, and then when Capricorn 1 comes back into it's supposed to land just off course, and they're going to pick them up and they're going to pretend like they really went. Well, guess what? It burns up in the atmosphere coming in. And so they're like, man, it burnt up in the atmosphere. So you got like these 4 guys or these 3 astronauts sitting in this warehouse going, well, if it burnt up, what's going to happen with us? And they realize, oh, they're going to kill us. Because they already just told them if they didn't go along with it, they were going to kill them. This is NASA.
Right.
This is not NASA. The friendly NASA we like.
You don't tell them no.
No. So listen, it's great. Like this is where it goes. It's really a bad movie, is where they chase them through the desert. That's when it gets really bad. Like, it's just total B movie in the chase. But they do kill O.J. Simpson, which is kind of cool. Because he's one of the astronauts. And then eventually they kill everybody but one guy, and he ends up showing up at his own funeral, which sounds hokey, but it's actually kind of good. Anyway, it would be a great remake. And I got one more remake, which I think about this a lot. These are the conversations by the way, Wade, these are the conversations you have in prison.
That's true. That's very true.
They go on for hours.
I'm good with having them here, though. Just to let you know.
That's what you talk about.
The other one is Logan's Run. Logan's Run.
That I'm pretty sure I have seen.
Yeah,
that would be a great remake.
Yeah. Get it outside of that little underground shit. Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch 24?
I never did get to see that.
That is the most addictive television show I think that has ever been created. I'm not saying it's the best. I don't have it in that category.
It got good reviews.
But I don't even think I watched that thing until it was like season 6. Okay. And obviously I'm a huge football fan, so it was on Fox. They would play those commercials every damn commercial break. And by the time season 6 rolled around, I'm like, well, obviously this thing's good. It's got 6 seasons. And the commercials for a TV show made it look like a damn action movie. And when I finally started watching it, bro, I was hooked. And obviously I burned through them. And I think like maybe a month ago, it was around Christmas. I don't know how I landed on it, but somehow I landed on one of the episodes. And I've been going back and just like binging them. And for anybody that doesn't know, the premise of the show 24 is whatever time of the day it starts, it's in real time. So if it starts at 8:00 in the morning, 24 episodes for a whole season, each episode being an hour. So the entire season is consisting of one day. It's really well done. I love that show. I wish
I'm gonna have to start watching that. Is what you're telling me?
Oh yeah. If you do, man, I'm telling you, you'll burn through it. I wasn't crazy about the last one.
All right, I'll do that. I'm actually making my way through the Battlestar Galactica stuff right now. I'm on the 2nd season of that. Liking it a lot.
Yeah, that's another one that's like they put these shows together, and they just didn't have what it takes to pull them off.
No, they didn't.
No, but they tried, and you have to admire that. And
Brett, speaking of indictments, have you read the recent indictment on Vincent Kennedy McMahon, the billionaire? Recent, I guess he's not the owner anymore.
He's not the owner anymore. No. So is he going to serve time? Is the question on that?
See, I've got a show I'm doing tomorrow with a young lady about some of these allegations, but I don't really know how you would classify that because it's saying trafficking. And it doesn't sound like what went on there would be trafficking. I think she's using the fact that he allegedly pressured her into having rendezvous with other members of the company.
As like Goldberg or some bullshit.
Well, I think they were alluding to Brock Lesnar, even though he wasn't named.
Lesnar, that's it, right.
One of them was said like it was a guy from the UFC. They were trying to get back. They were setting up a time for them to get together. Apparently that guy got really drunk. The meet never happened, but there's only a very minimal amount of guys that they would have gotten from UFC, Brock being, the main one.
Yeah.
But outside of that, some of the other stuff that's in the indictment is crazy. I don't know if, like I said, if I would classify that as trafficking.
Well, I mean, if you're delivering, so if you're pressuring and delivering those women for sexual services, that's trafficking. Absolutely, it is.
like personally delivering or just arranging.
Well, so if he was telling the girls, "Hey, go service this guy," they got you on that. If they can prove it, and we know the level for proof on stuff like that right now is not horribly high.
Right.
How long ago was this, though? Is statute of limitations up?
They met in 2019, and all of the alleged stuff that took place was from there up until like 2020, late 2022, early 2023.
And supposedly named the sexual toys depending on the color.
Wrestlers. Yeah. He had them separated by race. And then he also gave them names of prior wrestlers. And I'm going to say this right now. If one of them was not named the Big Show, I'm going to be so disappointed in Vince McMahon's creative mind. And he's a damn genius.
I know. Go get the junkyard dog. Let's use that on her.
I mean, think about it too. It's in her. You said she signed
an NDA.
Yeah. So it's in her best interest to get him charged because it won't stand up if it's an illegal activity. Like that's if it's fraud or illegal.
Okay.
All right. It doesn't stand up.
I was curious of like at that point in time, what the hell's an NDA worth? It's not worth the paper it's printed on. But also the NDA did require she was settling for a $3 million payout. She got a $1 million portion of that, was supposed to get the rest and never did.
I bet he wish he'd paid that now.
I bet he does too.
Like that's probably
that doesn't really add up to me either, though. I mean, this man is a multi-billionaire with a B. For him to not pay $2 million is like us skipping out on $40.
He's got history of that bullshit with wrestlers, though, man.
Yeah,
he fucked over Bret Hart and other people too.
Look, it doesn't matter if you're worth 10 million or 20 million. You don't want to lose money. People don't like losing. Like, listen, some of the richest people I know get irritated about, if they feel like what? How much? $62. That's ridiculous. Like listen, Deveroli, who's worth millions. I listened to him argue for 5 minutes because he didn't want to pay 3 stamps for 2 apples. It was like, what are you doing? Like I'm standing, I go, finally, I go, what the fuck are you doing, bro? We're supposed to be meeting right. And he was like, oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. It's just some of these guys, they're just so greedy.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? You've got like $7 million sitting in a bank account right now.
My wife is, well, not over millions, but I mean, she will hold up a line if something is not the correct price that it was on the shelf in the grocery store. And like when it starts to draw a crowd and we're getting lines wrapped out in the aisle, I'm like, you know what? I'll just give you the $5 if you'll let us get the fuck out of here and everybody quit staring.
Yeah, I'll be in the car.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll bring the car around. It'll be okay.
Oh my God. What else is going on?
Shit, that's it. How was the 6-hour Lex Fridman interview?
It was trimmed down to that. It was 7.5 hours.
Only Matt Cox could pull that off. I'm gonna throw that out there now.
I mean, damn, dude.
Listen, everybody. By the way, Brett. Everybody asked me. They're like, "How did you pull that off?" I said, "Well." My wife sent me a text that said, "Why haven't you been on Lex Fridman?" Just out of the blue. She never says anything.
Why haven't you been on that show?
And I went, I mean, I don't know. She's like, like 5 people that have been interviewed by him. Why haven't you been interviewed? I said, I guess I could reach out to him. I said, but I guess I'm afraid of rejection. And she goes, well, you need to get on that.
Yeah.
And I went, I said, I thought, he can only say no. If you don't ask at all, you never get on.
Right. Exactly.
So I sent, like right then I sent Brett a text and I said, hey bro, I hate to ask you this and I'm so sorry. But do you think you could connect me with Lex Fridman? He said, sure, I'll be home in 15 minutes. I'll send an email. And he just sent this really bad email.
This really bad
Like,
email.
I looked at it. My first thought after reading was, I was like, not for a mastermind, not thought out well. It was like, Lex, meet Matt Cox. He was on the Secret Service. I think you'd like talking to him. And then
Right.
immediately
Even said it with that tone of voice. I think you'd like talking
yeah,
to him.
and then followed it up with another one because he misspelled something or something. He said, "Oh, stupid me, I meant
Yeah.
this," and
I
then
meant
said
this.
something else.
Put his wrong email address on there. You got to have Addy. You're going to contact him. You
And
got to have it.
I thought, feel like this is a mistake. Like, I feel like I should have just got his email. Like, I'm not sure I want Brett suggesting,
And lo
or
and
at least
behold.
I should have crafted the email for him.
Here, let me send you what I want you to say.
Yeah.
I know.
Like I immediately pictured Brett writing it out in green crayon, like, so anyway, and then I sent, hey, hey, Lex, really would love to, and then he came back I think he came back and said something like, I don't know. He didn't say. I don't think he said anything. Then I can't waited 2 days or something. No, he said something like, "I'll."
Yeah, he responded. He's like,
Yeah.
nice to meet you virtually or some
Yeah,
bullshit.
real
Yeah.
quick, I'll get back with you. And then it was 2 days later. I was like, hey, bro. and then he came back. He said, Matt, can you come out on Monday to on Friday to was it Austin?
Was it
Can you
awesome?
come out to Austin on Friday, or next Wednesday I'll be, wherever it was, Fort Lauderdale, and you could meet me at the Ritz. And I was like, oh, well, first of all, there's no way I'm getting permission to go to
Right.
Austin. You know what I'm saying? Not in one day. It was like, this is Thursday. So I was like, yeah, Wednesday. Yeah, we can do Wednesday. And he said, great, I'll meet you in the lobby. Text me when you're there, at 1:00. That was it. So the whole way we're driving there, Jess is going, so we're driving all the way. You haven't said anything since. No. Have you texted him? No.
Nope.
Do you know that this is his phone number? He gave it to me. He said, just text you when you get there. Yeah. And we're going to drive we're driving 4.5 hours. Yeah. I don't want to bother him.
Right.
And she's like, what if he just doesn't respond? I'm like, well, then we'll come back. And she's like, okay. So anyway, we get there. I text him we within 2 minutes, he's like, I'll be down in 5 minutes, and he came down, took a picture with Jess, and I didn't get a picture. I don't know why. I was just, and then we went upstairs. He has the 2 cameras. We sat down. We started the interview. He takes the pictures of you, says, here, stand right here, face this way. All right. Look like you're thought provoking. Look serious. Look, and he takes all these pictures. And then we sat down, we started talking. At about 2 hours, we stopped. And I didn't know it had been 2 hours. He just suddenly was like, hey, can we take a break? Sure. Fine. Go to the bathroom, drink some water, sit back down, start again. And then he goes, then we stopped again, bathroom break. Okay. And then he said, I texted Jess and I was like, hey, I'll be done in 30 minutes to an hour. This was, at that point, I think it was about 3 hours in, 3.5, maybe.
I was about to ask where she was.
Yeah.
4 hours. So and keep in mind, I have no idea what time it is. I'm not like, hey, how long? So, but he keeps talking and and it's funny because multiple times I stopped and I was like, hey, I can wrap this up in about 5, because I looked at him and I thought he's just staring at me like this. And I thought, I don't think he's, but I was like, okay, I need to just wrap this up. So I was like, hey, I can wrap it up. At this point, I really can wrap it up in 5 minutes. He's like, and his girlfriend was there, and they would both go like, no. I was like, he's like, no, keep going. I was like, no, this is gold. This is gold. And I was like, okay, because he doesn't look interested. Didn't look like he was interested.
Right.
Not asking a lot of questions. So I was like, okay. So I kept going. So when it was finally done and we wrap it up, we sit back and I was like, okay, cool. And keep in mind, my phone was on airplane mode. So he said, how long do you think this has been? I go, it's been 3 hours, right? About 3 hours. And he goes, 7.5 hours. And my first thought was, I'm getting divorced.
Exactly.
I told her
30
hours
minutes
ago, 30 minutes to an hour. That was 3.5 hours. Listen, she is sleeping in the back of the car in a parking lot. And I was like, so I immediately grabbed my phone, start texting her. She's not awake. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in trouble.
She left. That would have been my thought. All right, she's
exactly.
She's gone. But yeah,
Lex, give me a bedroom.
she answered, and I was, went and got in the car and left. And yeah, he was totally cool. He was like, he said he's going to have it done on Sunday. It was Wednesday. I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, I'm not holding this. I was like, oh, cool.
Nice.
Well, Sunday
Nice.
he didn't have it done. So I
Right.
texted him, hey, what's going on? He's like, listen, man, this is a long podcast. And he was like, I just having, this is tough to edit. And I was like, okay. Then Monday, he said it'll come out Monday or Tuesday. Well, Monday came, it didn't. Tuesday came, it didn't. And then suddenly I started getting texts. Boom, boom, boom. I was in the middle of a podcast. Boom, 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 boom. And I looked down, I was like, oh shit, it got released. So, and then everybody, of course, and it's like 6 hours.
6 hours. What the fuck?
Yeah, he trimmed it way down. I
Well,
mean, hour and a half.
congratulations. Major congrats on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
Do you guys ever discuss like how long you want to go with your own stories? Because both of you have been on, multiple podcasts. Do y'all ever discuss like time limits or anything like that?
I will sometimes, like if I'll say, hey, do you have a time limit? But usually guys that do long form, they're like, bro, as long as it takes. I'm like, bro, I'll go for fucking 3-4 hours. They're like, yeah, go.
Yeah, like
right.
the Peterson thing with me was supposed to last 90 minutes. It went over 2.5. So yeah, he just keep going. Okay, we'll go. I'm supposed to be on Piers Morgan the next week or so. So we'll see how that shit goes.
Yeah. You got to plug your channel, bro.
I know.
Yeah,
Believe you me, I know.
Yeah.
Because I'm never going to get guests with shit I'm pulling.
No, you're not. That's going to dry up.
I think you'll get a lot of viewers for the guest. Yes.
But the podcast, you've got to convert this to podcasts.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to convert this to subscribers,
right?
Or it's not gonna.
No.
That's the biggest key. I think I get more bumps in subscribers when I do the shows like with you guys, and obviously when I done Matt and Concrete and things like that. The one that I didn't get really much on, and it didn't do well view wise, and I was so disappointed. And I thought it was probably the best I'd ever told my story was Sean Atwood.
You
really
get a bump from that?
Not really, not a big one. I mean, it only had 13,000 views.
Yeah.
Which was like very strange.
It's a little odd.
What about Ian Bick?
I think I'm over 100 on him, 100,000.
Okay.
And his TikToks, I think he released them twice. Like he done like 8 of them after the show was over. You know how he puts them out periodically. And then the New Year's Eve, he put them all out again. I think he may have changed the title or something like that in them, but it was the same ones over again.
Right.
And so it kind of got the TikTok definitely got a boost after that. If you add up the first one and the second one together, I would be the most viewed TikTok on his whole profile.
Nice.
It's second by itself from the first one. It's like one's at 7.5 million, another one's like 5.5 million.
Outstanding.
So that one, TikTok, that one did very well. Concrete's over 200, and Matt, I think we're like right up under 100. The one I did on your show.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say too, like Brett, you're the remake of your channel. Like the thumbnails look great, the banner looks good.
They're doing good.
They it looks like way better than your other things that you doing before.
Well, I was a one-man show and I didn't really give a shit.
Yeah.
I feel that. Matt always tells me like, you need to do this, you need to do that. I'm like, I know, but I don't have time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some things that it's like the name of it, and the thumbnail's so important.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, but it is important.
Yeah.
And it's like, which is also difficult. Like if you're trying to do it yourself and you're not really proficient with Photoshop, then it's hard.
Yeah.
And even then, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say really quick. I can't tell you like how upset and glad I've been at myself over the last 2 weeks, because I just found that Adobe website, you can put in a photo and it will erase the background for free.
Yes.
Or easy, like, instantly. And I've been using an app on my phone to trace around everything that I've erased the background on for the last 2+ years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you found like a miracle right there.
Oh, yes. My God. That's how I've been able to do these last few thumbnails that we've changed up that I was telling Matt about, because I can just throw them in there now and erase the background. I'm like, oh my God, this is so time saving.
I got you.
Yeah, I mean, wait till you can. Well, I was gonna say with Photoshop, like you can add the glow effect, and there's just all
Yeah,
kinds of stuff you can do. It's
I gotta learn
insane.
how to do all that.
Yeah. So I've got to ask, at what point, especially with Matt, because you said that you were needing guests. All right.
Yeah.
So it's been Matt Cox Inside True Crime, but obviously you're diversifying. So is the channel name going to stay the same? What's going to go on there?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep with Inside True Crime. I like
Okay.
Inside True Crime. You know, it's like the problem is, you know, if you, I mean, if you go to you go to college and you always end up taking like, you know, intro to business. So I took intro to, and one of the things they teach you in intro to business is you never name a business after yourself. It
Right.
causes problems. You know, the business is built so that it can survive, it can be sold, it can be, so you don't want to do that. You know, and obviously there's different, you know, there's always a you know, exceptions where somebody, you know, Charles Schwab or whatever. But you know, but even those, most of those businesses were started back when this, you know, back in the 1920s and 30s, and so anyway, so the rule of thumb is you don't do that. So I thought Inside True Crime, because I thought at some point I can hand it off to somebody if I build it up, and I could bring somebody on for 3 months and then hand it off, and they could take it over, and then they could pay me. Like, what if I want to retire someday? What if I get busy doing something else and I just decide, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore? It's like, okay, well, you know, what if you have 1 million subscribers?
Right.
You're going to walk away from that? Like, you need to be able to hand it off. The problem is that that's an outdated model, and people are watching the channel, yes, for the guests, but also for me. And when you look at your analytics, you start to realize nobody's looking up Inside True Crime. Like, it's less than 5% of the people.
Okay.
They're looking up True Crime, Matt True Crime, Cox True Crime. 2 or 3% are looking up Inside True Crime. The bulk of people are looking up Matt Cox to find the channel. Like, it's like 50, 60%. And then maybe 30% are Matthew Cox.
Gotcha.
That's it. So it's like the bulk of it is my name. And it's like, why do you have a channel called Inside True Crime? Like, you know, Danny and Julian were like, you got to rename. You got to, what are you doing? And I had a couple other guys. So, and then Colby came in. He's like, yeah. He's like, look at the analytics. He said, well, you got to change it. Let's get rid of Inside True Crime. I was like, I don't want to get rid of it. Let's just put
Right.
my name Inside True Crime. So that was it.
Okay.
Long story, long version of
Brett, yours is the Brett Johnson show, right?
So I've got the Brett Johnson show, and I've got the Criminal Thoughts podcast with Brett Johnson.
Yeah,
which is the one where I'm calling out every son of a bitch on the planet.
Yeah, that's short lived.
I don't have a name value like y'all. So Crime and Entertainment,
Hollywood Wade and the beard.
Yeah, but you know, look, you can brand anything. You know, Kraft. That's not a name. That's a made up. Kraft is made up. Haagen-Dazs, made up. You know, there's so many brands that are, you know, Canon, the term, you know, the Canon computer or Canon copy machines, like
right.
Canon has nothing to do with copying. Like, there's so many brands that are out there that they said, hey, this is the name we're going with. Some of them are just making up words, obviously, like, you know, Kraft. So you're making up words, and they said, you know, if we just brand the shit out of this, it'll be something. So you can, if you start, you need to look at your analytics and say, how are the part of your analytics that where it's saying, how are people finding my channel? Because that may be the issue. You might be like, holy shit. You know, you might already look at it and say, oh my God, people are looking my name up. Like, that's 30% of how people are finding me already. So at that point, and you know, you can go into your analytics on your channel, and you can put keywords to help locate the channel. Like, I don't know if you put your name in there yet. I can look at Wade until he didn't. But you can go in and put things like, you know, you can put true crime, entertainment, movies, mob movie. Like, you can go in and list a whole group of them.
Yeah.
Like, that may be an issue.
Yeah. I mean, I need to do that. Crime and Entertainment just encompasses
everything
I do very well.
It's actually a great name.
It really is.
It is. So, you know, but, you know, great. It's like, you know, do you, if you do something that you love and it doesn't work, then you kind of need to rethink it.
Right.
So, and I'm not saying it's not working. I'm just saying you might think, like, look, Julian did it. Julian rebranded his whole thing. You know, he was
before that.
Oh gosh, what was it? It was called I think I'm gonna say it wrong. I think I wasn't. It was like Trendifinder or Trendifinder. Let's say like finding trends or something. I don't know, something like that.
Fire.
Yeah, Trendifier. Yeah, right. And he bought it because the domain was available. And, and thought, yeah, and he thought he'd brand it. And of course, he's got a degree in business or finance or something. So he's taken a bit. So he thought that. But then eventually, after doing it for a year and a half to 2 years, he realized people are for one, they can't even spell it. They don't even know what it is. And two, people are finding his channel by putting in his name.
Right.
So what am I doing? And that's how I felt. Like, what am I doing? Like, I needed it as much as I love the name. And it's funny, how how I came up with that name, Inside True Crime. I was in prison, right? So I wanted to start a website because I didn't know what YouTube was when I was locked up. And there was a girl named Joy that was helping me. And boy, let me talk. She was a brutal. Like it was like a friend it was a friend who said, look, I've got a friend on the outside. If you pay her, she'll help you. And I was like, I'll pay her. Like I had made money while I was in prison writing books and doing stuff. I was like, I'll pay her.
Right.
And so I got on the phone with her, and this is how the conversation worked. She said, because she was a real estate agent. She goes, first of all, let me tell you right now, I'm disgusted by what you did. It's people like you that ruined this economy. She goes, I was a real estate agent. She goes, and I could have done the things that you did, and I chose not to. Now I stopped myself from saying, I doubt you could have done what I did. You're a real estate agent. Your job.
I'll let you say it, but we both know that ain't true.
Right. I need you, so you get to talk to me like this. Like your job consists of turning a key and saying, this is the bedroom, like, stop it. So anyway, but let's say it's true. So, and I was like, okay. And she goes on and she's, oh, and by the way, she goes, don't ask me to read your stories. I'm not reading them. I'm not interested. I'm appalled by crime. She goes, I'm going to help you because, so-and-so asked me to help you. And I was like, okay. She goes, I will send you an invoice. The first time you don't pay it, we're done. I said, no problem. And she was like, okay. So she's a pit bull. She was a pit bull, bro. Like if I said, hey, I really need to get in contact with this guy, man, she'd hound the shit out of somebody. She did all kinds of, and I was like, look, one of the things I need you to do is I need you to start. I want to lock down a website. I need an email address. I need to lock down a website. And I was like, I really like, because this is something my prosecutor had said about me. She said, Mr. Cox wrote the book on fraud, but we wrote the last chapter. I said, I want lastchapter.com. Wasn't available. Right. I want thelastchapter.com, not available. So she came back. She's like, look, I got your 8 different variants. I looked them all up. They're all taken, or you can buy one for, $1,500, which I know you're not doing. She goes, so we're going with Inside True Crime. Cause you're in prison and you're inside and you write true crime. So we're going with that. So I got you the domain name that she already paid for it. That was it. The decision was made. So I didn't choose the name. This bulldog chick chose the name. And she's like, I also got you a Gmail for our Inside True Crime because that's available too. She goes, that's the best you're going to get. So what else do you want me to do? I'm like, Jesus, God almighty.
That's not horrible.
It's not.
No.
And I listen, I was, first I walked around like, Jesus, man, I can't believe this. And I thought about it for about, like, a lot of times I'll get irritated. And then I think about it and think, it's really not bad.
Not bad.
Like, and what is it, man? Then I told myself the Kraft story and the Canon and the Haagen-Dazs. And I said, you can brand anything, bro. That works. Fuck it. Let's move on. You got bigger fish to fry. You got 20 more years to do. So.
Yeah. I didn't even think of the crime entertainment name. I was talking to my buddy that did it when I first started it. And I was telling him, he's like, what all do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. We'll talk about movies. We'll talk about, whatever. I wasn't even thinking about interviewing people at the time. I was just wanting to jump all over. I was like, I'll talk about wrestling, whatever.
There you go.
And he's like, so you want to do crime and entertainment? And I'm like,
and you went,
that's pretty good. Right.
That's my name right there. That's it.
Oh
that's it.
You're
That's it.
And it was born right then and there.
And then Brett Johnson, that was always a given.
Yeah.
Brett never thought for 1 second not to name it after himself.
That's exactly right. That's exactly. And when I saw Fridman, he was like, he told me at the end of the interview, he's like, really glad that you've named your show the Brett Johnson Show. I wish I would have started my show like that to begin with. And I was like, well, thank you so much. I hadn't thought of anything else. It just won't grow because, you know, I'm that son of a bitch. Meanwhile, these people reach out to me and I still got, you know, 3,200.
So Matt, and Brett, be a question for you, both of you guys. How do you get people to like reach out to y'all to want to be a guest on the show? Is it email or Matt? I know you have a few people that help you, but like track down people. But I mean, like,
I mention it during things like this. I need guests. The bar is low. You know, if you can tell a story. Listen, I had a guy, and I give this speech, by the way, to everybody. This is my speech. Listen, I need an hour of your true crime story. We can talk about whatever's going on now that you're proud of and how you've rebuilt your lives and all the, or your life, and you started this and you've done this, but I need a minimum of an hour. If it goes 2 hours, I'm fucking thrilled, but I need at least an hour. That's what I tell them. And then, you know, and then they go, okay. So I talked to this guy the other day. I said, you sent me your bio. I get it, but that's honestly 10, 15 minutes of your story. I need at least an hour of the crime story. He's like, oh, I was arrested a bunch of times. I can talk about that. I can this. Yeah. I can definitely do over an hour. I said, great. Then we can talk about the ministry and all these other things, these wonderful things that you're doing. I love that. That's great. You go into prisons, you talk to people, the whole thing. I interviewed him today. 18 minutes later, we're done.
18 minutes.
I stopped in, and the only reason it went 18 was because I stopped him like 2 or 3 times and said, well, I don't understand how, like I tried to coax him, but after the 3rd time I realized, wow, bro, like, did you listen to me at all yesterday? Like, I sat there and I was so, by the 3rd time I thought, no, I'm not doing this. And he, by the way, you could tell because he was run like a ministry for like 30 years. He's been saying this story for 30 years and he couldn't comprehend how to say more than what was in that little bio. Like he's got like a 2-page bio. It's 15 minutes of reading. And I thought he can't do it. He's not like it, bro. It's not, you're not, if you do force it, it's going to sound, you're really going to start to sound like an asshole.
Right.
You know, no, bro, like explain this. No. I probably should have hit pause and said, hey, listen, man, what the fuck are you doing? But even then I was going to get 5 more minutes.
Right.
And so I was like, okay. And then was done. I was like, well, how do you feel like this is going? He's like, oh, I feel good about that. Oh, that's great, bro. All right, well, let's wrap this up. Okay, thanks. You know, wrapped it up. And then I immediately went on and told Colby, bro, like, don't even post this.
Right.
I can't post a 15-minute video.
Right.
So I have that talk with them. Like, look, don't come on here and shoot and talk for 30 minutes. If you don't have a story, here's what bothers me too. It's the guys that do this. Yo, so I got caught up in a conspiracy, and so I got 6 years. So when I was in prison, whoa. What was the conspiracy? Man, a guy his guy was slinging dope, and he sold me some dope, and I was on the wire, so I end up in prison, and it's like whoa. Wait. So how did you get caught again on the thing? And then they say again, man, the guy was the DEA was on him and shit, and I ended up in the conspiracy. So anyway, it's like, and by the 3rd or 4th time, it's like, the fuck aren't you grasping, bro?
Yeah, you're not picking up what I'm putting down.
You've been arrested 5 times. You've gone to prison 3 times. Each arrest could be a fucking 45-minute to an hour podcast. But see, these guys spend so much time with each other that they don't realize that those details to some guy who's loading a shelf in the back of a Walmart wants to know those. He doesn't know anybody like you.
Right.
So when somebody says, yeah, so I was arrested, if you hang out with a bunch of guys that have been arrested 5 or 6 or 10 times, then they're like, right, anyway, so what happened when you got downtown? But if you've never been arrested, then they want to know, did they bang on the door? Did they catch you walking out to your car? Did they grab you leaving work? Did they pull the guns on you? Was it 2 guys or 15? Were your kids with you? Were you scared? They throw you on the ground? Were they assholes? How tight were the cuffs? Like that's the beauty of being a storyteller. And these guys breeze right over it sometimes. And it's frustrating as fuck, especially when you know somebody that's got an amazing story. You know how many times I've seen that? I've talked to somebody, we're 45 minutes in their story, and I'm just thinking, you got a you've got a true crime book. You've got a series in you right now, and I can't get the story out of you.
Right.
There's only
That's
so
so
many Tim
frustrating.
McBrides, Matt.
Yeah.
So how often does that happen?
Half, at least half.
Mm.
And sometimes it's frustrating. Like, listen, when Wade sat down and started talking, listen, I wish every single person was Wade. Wade was it. I was like, listen, I got on the phone immediately and called Danny. You got to listen to me. This guy's taken one event. He's got the whole buildup so that by the time it goes wrong for him, you care about it. You're infuriated that they took the investigation the wrong way. You're pissed. Why? Because I like Wade. Because I like Wade, and I like the idea of Wade and his wife getting back
Right.
together. And I love the kids. And like you love the whole thing. These guys, by the time they get arrested, I'm like, well, thank God they got you off the street. You're a fucking menace. So,
well, I purposely when I went down to Florida, I booked 3 days down there, and that was kind of like, I guess, betting on myself, if you will. I said, well, I know if I do a good job with Matt, he'll probably recommend me to Danny. So why not just have 2 extra days to hang around in case he wants to do it? And if I suck and he don't, I'm still in Florida, so it's not the worst place to be.
There you go.
Days.
Yeah. Yeah. It's too bad. It's too bad about these guys.
Do you have more, like, I guess, does it happen more often with people that have never really told the story before, or are these people that have told their stories on podcasts? Because I'll say this, a guy reached out to me after he seen my show on Ian's podcast, and he reached out to me on Facebook. I guess he tracked me down somehow and told me that he had a similar story, and, he was really, interested in mine. And, we just kind of swapped some messages back and forth. And I'm just like, call me, kind of tell me what happened with your situation. And he broke it down, and we were on the phone for like, 45 minutes to an hour. And I'm just like, have you ever told this on a podcast? And he was like, no. He's like, I heard yours and was thinking, maybe I should tell mine. And I'm like, well, you should. And you should do it on mine to start.
Yeah.
Right.
And he did. And when he come on, we done it for about an hour and 45 minutes. He was very detailed. You could tell he was maybe slightly nervous because it was the first time he had ever did it. But I mean, he was very good. Some people I just think have that, and then some don't. But then again, I think when you have a story that'll almost send you to prison for life, which his was that way, and you have time to stew over it, you're going to think about all those details. Maybe some that have never, had that same experience, maybe they just gloss over a lot of it. Maybe it's not that a big deal to them. Like you said, breaking down those details of getting arrested and all that.
I mean, also he knows his story. He knows if he went through that whole thing, he knows the details inside and out. Right. You know how many of these guys that are like gangbangers, drug dealers, that it's like they don't know anything about their like you got arrested. Do you know how you got arrested? Yeah, man, they just grabbed me in the motel. No. I mean, how did they get onto you?
Right.
Oh, I don't know. They must have been on the spot. Like, didn't you ask your lawyer?
No.
No, I just, I asked for the best deal I could get. So my lawyer gave me the best deal I could get. Like, you don't like, and then you look into it and you're like, okay. I literally had this guy. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to look into it. And he this was when I was writing a story in prison. He looked at me like, the fuck are you going to do? Like 3 weeks later, I come back and I go, do you know a guy named Pookie? And he's like, I know a bunch of Pookies. I'm like, yeah, me too. Do you know? I said, no, his real name is like, Donald Williams. And they're like, he and his brother are like, yeah. I said, okay, do you know a guy named, Chris, whatever, Kelly? Yeah. I said, so he and Chris Kelly robbed a 7-Eleven. And then I go through the whole thing. Boom, 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 boom. And finally he set you up. And then he suddenly went, Pookie's aunt is the one that called me to deliver the drugs to the motel. And he was like, oh, like suddenly it all made sense. It's like, I know more about your story than you do.
Yeah.
They just don't even look into it or ask or care or.
Right.
And you can get all that from the discovery, right? Even if a public defender has to give you all that too.
Listen, most of these guys don't even ask for the discovery. They just want to plead guilty and get the best deal they can get.
Yeah.
You know, usually they turn around immediately. And a lot of times they'll cooperate right away. It's funny because these two guys like didn't cooperate. But most of the time they immediately shift to cooperation, so they don't ask for their discovery. So it's like, hey, I want to plead guilty. I want to cooperate. I want to try and knock my sentence down because it doesn't matter what's going on in my case. I'm going to cooperate, so I'm not going to fight the case. So I don't really need to know any details.
Right. Which makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, in
You
an
don't want
odd
to
way,
irritate
it
them.
makes sense. Yeah.
No. I mean,
with
honestly,
my,
like, and then
you
every
take
once
my
in a while
case,
you,
for example, man. So my plea agreement, I had to agree to give up the ability to file any FOIA requests.
I've seen that happen before. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's nuts. That's nuts. You know, periodically you'll have someone who will like cooperate and then actually commit more crimes while they're cooperating. Who would do that? That's insanity.
And then get placed on the U.S. Most Wanted list after that.
I mean, who would do that? That is almost, I think the only way you could up that is if you actually were sitting in the Secret Service's office doing the additional crimes, committing the additional crimes.
Where else was I going to do it?
I mean, wow. Like,
I have issues.
If they're looking out there, they're not looking behind them.
I hope
I have
Jordan
a lot of
Peterson
issues
got
with
you
security.
straightened out. I don't think even Jordan Peterson could straighten you out, to be honest.
I gotta be honest. I honestly, you know, you say it like that, and I'm like, I honestly don't know why these companies still hire me.
Listen, I hear you.
It's
And
the
they pay very
charisma.
well.
It's the charisma.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
No, it is, and like it's just like we mentioned wrestling earlier. Like the guys in that business, even if they weren't good in the ring, if they were good on the mic, they could sell
Yeah.
tickets.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Ric Flair was actually really good in the ring, but he was great on the mic. And so people wanted to hear what he had to say. Same thing with The Rock. I mean, being good on the mic was largely most of the problem or most of the battle.
So I, okay, so there's an organization called what is it? You know what it is. It's the forensic accounting. What is it?
Yeah. I've
Whatever.
spoken with him before.
Yeah, I know you have, because when I came and I did mine after yours, which was like a year, they said, well, you know, we had Brett Johnson. Do you know Brett? I said, oh, I know Brett. They said, yeah, we had Brett. And you would think, because to me, I'm a big believer in play to your audience, like, you know your audience, right? And they were like, yeah, he, you know, yeah, like 6 months, a year ago. And I went, oh, I said, yeah, he's good, right? He's pretty good. He's got a great story. He's like, yeah. You know, he's boy, he's loud.
Oh yeah.
Like, and they're like,
yeah.
and I mean, they're like, and I mean, like if my children were in the room, I'd have to earmuff them.
He's loud.
Like he'll throw the F-bomb in there. Like I was like, oh my God, like he's loud and he's cussing the whole time. They're like, and I was like, no, like he didn't. They're like, no, he doesn't tone it down at all. And Jess is in the background going, that's what's great about him. And and I was like, oh wow, you gonna have him back? Oh no, we had him for the convention over in, you know, wherever, some other place. And I was like,
yeah, we like him. Audience loves it. He scares them to death.
Yeah, our children can't come.
Oh,
but
no,
the children
it's
can't.
not kid friendly.
No,
it's not.
Adults only.
The first time, no shit about it. So I had been opening up my presentations with the word shit, and I went over to UK, and the guy was like, "Hey, we can't have you cursing." I was like, "Okay, what do you want me to do? Just do something. Just don't curse." I'm like, "Okay." So I didn't know that in the auditorium they had a spillover room because it was so crowded. So that's where I come out with this blood curdling yell, like, 3 minutes into the presentation, blew the speakers in the spillover room. So he comes up to me after, he's like, "You destroyed the speakers." And I was like, "I am so sorry." He's like, no, it was good. It was really good. We've never had that happen before. I was like, I think I'll keep the scream then.
The Ed Sullivan Show. So the Doors, right? Jim Morrison. Yes. Jim Morrison. They go to Jim Morrison. It's like he's never been on like national TV. Jim Morrison and the Doors, and so they come to him and they're like, "Listen, It's the Ed Morrison show. You cannot say higher.
Yes, I can.
Can't get much higher. And he goes, I got you. I hear you. It would be inappropriate. They said, exactly. Thank God we're on the same page. It's going to be live. We're good. He gets out there and sings, baby, we can't get much higher.
Yep.
He does the whole thing, right? And they're just like, this motherfucker. That's Brett. I thought Brett was going to say, oh, yeah, no cussing. No,
Oh, no.
inappropriate. I hear you. I am
No.
with you. And then he goes out and just.
Oh yeah, I still do it. But here's the thing. I had when I started the speaking stuff, I was not having fun. I was not. I was serious. I was, detailed, diving into it. I went to this. I got invited to a camera conference in Orlando, and one of the presenters was a speaking coach, and she had been doing this shit for 40 years.
Right.
And she pulls me off to the side, and she's like, Brett, she's like, you are outstanding. The only thing I would tell you is always have fun. And I was like, serious? She's like, if you can have fun on stage, the audience will get that as well, and it'll be a much better presentation. And since that point in time, I have made sure that if no one else has fun, I have fun.
F-bombs away.
That's it. And I don't curse all the time. But if the audience is open to it, I will throw out a fuck bomb every now and then. Absolutely. It does not bother me.
Speaking of knowing your audience, Brett, I'd say about a month and change ago, I'd sent Matt a clip of this guy named Gene Borello, who he since interviewed and I had on my show.
Okay.
I was telling him how he was kind of feuding with Joey Merlino and Michael Francis, and he's like, we should cover this. We should do a show on it since it was kind of hot. And I'm like, yeah, we'll do that. So we get on there, and Matt's talking about doing time with Joey in prison. Now, mind you, Joey is allegedly, some say still, I doubt he's still doing it, but was the mafia boss of Philadelphia.
Okay.
Not a underling, but the boss.
The head of the Philadelphia mob. That's what the documentaries say.
And Matt
and all the news programs
was not very kind. He was not very Christian-like.
Honest
to this guy.
He's a miserable person.
And I knew like inside when he started that, I'm like, oh, they're gonna fucking kill him in the comments. And when we get done, we wrap it up. It was a good interview. When he get done, he's like, so you want me to send you a link and you can put it on your channel? And I'm like,
yes.
No.
He's like, I'm going to, real weird. He's like, I'm going to pass on this one. And I was like, really? Huh? And he was like, yeah,
why?
Let's see how it goes with you.
So people get on your nerves too sometimes.
Mine?
Yes.
Oh, listen, this guy, Merlino was just miserable. He's a miserable person, and then he comes out and he's like, I always love it. He's like, I never ate lunch with that guy. I don't even remember that guy. I don't know who that guy is. And then he comes out and says, I'd never seen that guy. And then he goes, I made a call to a kid, which I know who it was. And he goes, which is the only person we know in common at Coleman. And he says, so immediately he says, yes, you know him. He was at Coleman with us, and ends up explaining to him like who I am.
Right.
And so Merlino, for a guy who says he's never seen me before, there's 1,800 inmates at Coleman. I was with him for over a year. I used to work out 10 feet away from him sometimes. We passed each other over and over again. I ate with him like 3 times. Okay. Did he know I was a rat? No, he didn't know I was a fucking rat. He didn't know that, obviously. Like I'm not advertising and I don't wear a shirt or anything. There's no scarlet letter. But thank God, right? How embarrassing. So anyway, you could have like a little rat scarlet letter.
Exactly. Little stamp.
Yeah, that'd be all right. So
just look at him and
so, that would be great. Like, if I do this, then somebody's going to screenshot this and I'm going to see this.
Exactly.
So with the ears, Ian Bick would have put that on the thing. I'd have ears and be like this. And so that would be my thumbnail. So anyway, so what happened is, so he says all this. So if you didn't know me, you called the one guy we know in common immediately to talk about me. So obviously you knew Like, you know,
Yeah.
and two, we were at Coleman together. Like, unless you're just blind, you can't not know me. Everybody in Coleman knew me, and everybody
Right.
in Coleman knew what I was there for. So, here's the thing. I think what happened is that he didn't know that I had cooperated when I sat at the table with him, and then after he'd sat with me once, he and another guy came and sat with me and Merlino's buddy 2 more times. Never thought about it again. I'm sure he never thought about it. So when I bring it up, he immediately has to lie and say, I don't even know who that guy is. Like, instead of saying, hey, I didn't know that guy cooperated. Instead, it turned into a whole thing. But listen, when we put out that video, people are very unhappy with me, Brett. He has a following, apparently.
I had a feeling it wasn't going to go over well. That's why I was like, well, considering I based a lot of my early stuff in the podcast game off the mob, I'm going to pass on
Yeah.
that.
I'll pass
I'm
on
going to let
this
you take
opportunity.
it all, and hopefully I'll get some of the people that don't want to kill you to come over and sub to my channel.
Yeah, it was
So,
bad.
I guess it's just that gangster bullshit, that aura that people gravitate to, huh?
Well, yeah, and then I interviewed Gene Borello.
Okay.
Gene comes on. I'm just trying to get him to tell his story. He blasts Merlino. I mean, blasts him. And I'm like, yeah, right. No, I get it. So anyway, and I'm thinking this is bad, and it gets worse and
It's
worse.
good. It's good.
So I'm like, and then listen, the hate. Like, if I thought people disliked me because of the stuff I said about Merlino, it's nothing compared to how they feel about Gene. And so then I did another one with a guy, Tom Lavecchi. I can never remember these Italian names. So Lavecchi, and we talked about the mob, and
Right.
Merlino came up, not good again. And so finally, my wife said, "Listen, like, I like YouTube. I get it. The views, it's great. Feel like you've milked this enough. And to be honest, like, I'd like you to stop so that, like, before we get killed." And she didn't say that. She didn't really go that route until, because I had brought up the fact that Merlino, while he was incarcerated, like, and this is like a known fact. Like, I'm not saying anything that's not already in actually documentaries, everything. His wife had several affairs. Like, it was a done thing. Like, everybody
So
knows.
you brought that shit up.
It's not my fault.
You did.
Everybody did. Listen, Barillo did. Like, very distasteful. So, but here's the problem.
Your wife, boy, she sure is pretty.
Oh no, he was talking about. Listen, he was saying, listen, if Barillo said, he's like, look, if you were respected at all, he's like, guys wouldn't be running a train on your wife when you're in prison. Like, oh wow, like, he put some thought into that. That rolled off his tongue too. So, but here's the problem: is that my wife is like, she's like, look, like, you've got these people fucking hating on you. Like, they're getting crazy in the fucking comments. They're saying fucked up shit. And I was like, and she's like, I mean, I don't think anything's gonna happen. I mean, but and I sat there and I said, well, so the guy that did sleep with his wife, I said, this is probably nothing. He did end up dead about 6 months later. Someone killed him in his apartment.
Not connected. Correlation does not mean causation.
Listen, that happens.
Exactly.
It happens. It was an accident. He fell down on 6 bullets. So, and she said, listen, yeah, that's enough.
Yeah.
She's like, before somebody kicks our fucking door in and does something bad, like, you need to just. I'm like, no, I get it. She's like, I mean, this is the head of the Philadelphia mob, and I'm like, allegedly. So
allegedly.
Yeah, it's not even my thing.
One of the comments said, "You two better watch what you say." I forgot what he said about you and that hillbilly. I was like, I'm taking offense to that hillbilly comment, pal.
Who was the hillbilly? You?
Me, I guess. I wasn't talking about Matt.
Low country.
They do get creative.
Oh
You
yeah.
have to. Listen, I've heard some of the funniest things I've read is people saying shit about me. Like, I laughed my ass off. There was this one guy who said, he's like, because when I started working out, he's like, if Cox gets any bigger, he's going to have to start shopping in the adult section. I mean, it's just one after another. These guys, they're very creative.
My favorite comment ever, I think, was on the one that I did with you, where I told my story, and one guy said, the combination of Matt Cox's hair and this guy's beard is unstoppable.
I like it. I like it. I
That's
do. I like
great.
it.
Oh, Jesus. Funny
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. So I can't talk mob stuff anymore.
So you're through with the mob.
Yeah. I don't even know anything. And these guys get upset with me because I don't know anything. And I said I don't know anything.
Yeah, I told Gene going ahead, I'm like, you're going to have to handle most of that. I was like, because Matt openly would tell you he doesn't know a lot about the mob. And I mean, I know some, but I don't know everything. Even some of the people that he was naming, I didn't know them all, but I at least had, some baseline of who he was and who he had dealt with.
Right.
But I mean, he's a controversial dude. And he told me when he got done, he's like, you'll probably get 20,000 off this interview. And I'm like, I'm not really that big. I don't do those kind of numbers. Over 40 something thousand.
No shit.
Since December. It was like the week of Christmas.
So did you reach out to him or he reach out to you?
I'd already been in contact with him before he went to jail last year.
Okay.
He went to jail around like 1st of last year. And he was in there for like 6-ish, 8 months, whatever. Then when he got out, I'd reach back out to him. I'm like, hey, we were supposed to do one before you went to jail. You want to pick that up? And I'm glad I did. And I think Matt too, because now he started to make the rounds on a lot of the bigger podcasts. He just went on like a tour to LA. I think he was on Cinemills.
Okay.
He was supposed to do Francis. I think he still is. I think he's going to wind up doing Sammy the Bull. So we kind of got it before he made the rounds to all the major ones.
Right.
But I mean, he knows how to give an interview. He knows how to create controversy. He's a smart cat.
Yeah.
That aspect. Yeah.
Listen, my interview with him, it's 77,000. It's a good interview. Like those interviews, like those mob guys, they, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
They eat it up.
Right.
Well, I mean,
they
have a dedicated audience. I mean, over the grand scheme of things, it's not huge on the YouTube world, but it is very dedicated. They do watch, they do graciously share their opinion, good or bad.
Right.
But like if you just did strictly that, like you're going to run out of content really quick unless you just solely do like solo shows and do stuff like a history lesson. And that was the thing, is like people would tell me, you're platforming all these informants. And I'm like, all right, well,
everyone fucking talks.
Yeah. I'm like, well, who are you going to talk to? No successful mob guy that got away with shit for years is going to say, oh yeah, I never got caught for that murder. And when we killed this guy and put that guy in the trunk, there's 3 dead people in this house right now.
That whole idea of not talking, that changed after 1987.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Once they restructured all that, everybody talks.
Yeah. Yeah. They incentivized it.
Yeah. You want this quarter or you want a nickel? What do you want? I think I want a nickel.
Yeah. That's
Who else can I tell on?
A good guy for you to interview, Matt, is Jay Dobbins. You ever heard of him?
No.
He went undercover in the Hells Angels motorcycle gang. He was ATF.
Okay.
And I've had him on my show. I got his email. Basically, they had to take out a Mongol member who was a rival club of the Hells Angels. A guy that was in the Mongols undercover, Billy Queen, who wrote a book called Under a Loan that was really good. The ATF had like some Mongol cuts that were, I guess, from the seizure or whatever. So they mock up, they get like a special effects guy. They go out in the desert and it makes it look like they just killed this Mongol, and they lay him out. Looks like his head split open. They bring him back to vest with blood on it. And so the Angels are just like, welcome this guy in. Allegedly, he was supposed to be, I don't think they call it made, but whatever it is when you're patched in. Allegedly, at the next time they were doing it, they were supposed to be patched in. You even hear on the surveillance tapes, because the house was wired, them saying, that's it, brother, you're in. And they're hugging him and, all that. Well, they pulled the plug. ATF pulled the plug on it right before he was supposed to be a full patched in member.
He was irritated, right? I think I've heard this.
He was very irritated.
To get patched.
But the thing was, it was called Operation Black Biscuit, I think it was. But because he had to do so much shit that crossed the line, it didn't garner near as many convictions as they wanted it to and hoped it would. So much so that he actually wound up leaving the ATF. ATF at one point made his location and address public
Oh shit.
So the Angels burn his house down, allegedly. And when he went back and was trying to tell him, like, look, I told you guys I'm in danger. You need to help me. They charged him with trying to burn his own house down.
Jesus.
I mean, it was nuts. And he said, this is what he said. He said, an angel come up to him one time. This was after everything happened. And they said, we haven't forgotten. And one of these days, when you go to pick that little girl up off the bus, or a little boy, I can't remember, it was a kid, and he's not there to come off that bus to meet you, just think that he's with us and what we're doing to him. And I was like, holy God. I mean, like, but it was really good. I mean, it was about a 2.5. At that time, I think it was the longest one I'd ever done, about 2.5 hours, but it was really good. He's an interesting cat. He's got a documentary on and everything.
Yeah, he sounds great. He sounds like a great interview.
Yeah, he's really good. Good dude.
Jesus.
Bikers ain't nothing to play with either.
No.
Matt, before you start bad talking to bikers, I'm gonna get on out of here. No, I'm just kidding.
Give him a chance.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely like to interview that guy. That'd be great.
Yeah, he's got some good stories. Well, story. It's not stories, a story. One very long one. But he was like there when they had that big Laughlin fight. I think it was in Laughlin, where they're in the casino and they're just like
on video.
Yeah. I don't know how no more people didn't get killed in that.
Well, so many of those guys, like the Donnie Brasco, that FBI agent, like, you watch the movie and you're like, oh, he didn't go over the line. The truth is that, if you really read the books and talk to any, they're like, oh, this guy was doing all kinds of fucked up shit.
Yeah.
He was way over the line.
Right.
But, how are you going to convince these guys that you're one of them? And it's basically, shoot, what do they call it? It's called public. God, there's a name for the term when they basically allow you to break the law to further they give you permission. It's called something public
authorization for criminal activity.
Right. So it's
that's the paperwork for it anyway.
Oh,
for some odd reason, I know that.
So yeah, but I mean, what else are you going to do? How else am I going to convince this guy?
Yeah.
Unless I go in with him and rob the bank. Like if that's
like. That's the weird thing for that. What happens is, so the feds go, whatever the agency is, ATF, FBI, Secret Service, whatever, they go to the prosecutor. They tell them, hey, this guy needs to do this stuff. And at that point, the prosecutor sits down and gives that authorization for whatever that specific activity is. And you're not supposed to go outside of that.
Right.
But we all know that they all go outside of that.
Yeah. Well, and it's happening in real time.
Yeah.
Like you can't go back and say, hey, by the way, after we left here, we went here and we had to do this. Like you can't stop these guys and say, hey, you guys, I'm sorry, this is outside my purview.
Yeah. Right.
The U.S. attorney only allowed me to rob the bank. We can't now fence the stuff.
Let me check in with my commanding officer real quick before we do this. I'll be 1 second.
So, yeah, I mean, you have to be able to do those things in order to, ingratiate yourself with an organization. And once you are, then you're in thick. You're in deep. Oh, God. Listen, I was locked up with a guy who had murdered like 30 some odd people. And his name was Gordo. Of course, he was fat. He was really a bit fat. And he had these stories that were just outrageous. And some guy was reading a mob book and he walked by the cell and he stopped. He said, hey, I'm in there. Look on page 124. He said, the secretary, I murdered me and my partner. We killed the lawyer. So he and his buddy, they're paid to kill a lawyer. They go in to kill the lawyer. They go in, they kill the lawyer. And when they come back out, the secretary, I think they walked in with the secretary. Actually, they told her, like, shut up. They walked in, killed him, walked back out. She's in tears, just terrified. The one hitman's like, we got to kill her. And he's saying, no, we weren't paid to kill her. And he's like, she didn't do nothing. We weren't paid to kill her. And he's like, yeah, but she's seen us. And he takes her license and he says, listen, if I find out that you've talked to them, I'm going to come back and I'm going to, if you're not here, I'll kill your neighbors. I'll kill your family. We'll track them down. Just like we tracked this guy down. We'll find you. And he's like, listen, she never talked to anybody. She was like, I'm not telling you what they look like. I'm not telling you nothing. They took my driver's license. No, we can protect you. She said, yeah, like you protect the lawyer here? No, yeah. I don't think so. Because he was working with like the feds.
Right.
So, God, Gordo had story after story after story. He would have been great I would
He
love.
would
There's
have
so
been
many people.
great.
There's so many people I wish I'd kept in contact with. And listen, he got like 30 years. Like he admitted to God knows how many murders. Well, of course he cooperated. He spent like
Right.
5
Oh, I
years
was about to say
testifying.
that's only a year per
No,
murder.
he spent
Yeah.
like 5 years. He put together like a football team practically. He put together, 30, 40 guys or went to prison for life sentences because of him. And he ended up with like 30 years. Listen, and he was wrapping it up. He was like 5 years left. He was like, I'm out of here. So there were so many great, really great people. I wish if I'd known this was a thing and I was going to be on this platform, I'd had a list and lists. And then some guys I reach out to, like, they don't want to come on. It's like, oh, I don't want to come on. I don't want to tell my story. I'm like, you're a carpenter and you work for yourself. What do you, I don't want people know. What do you mean you don't want people knowing?
Right.
That's, anyway, it frustrates me.
No, I meet people all the time that'll like say these stories or have these stories. And I've got a buddy who, like, if I had to pick one guy that I grew up with that I figured was either going to die or land in prison for life, it was him. And I've told him this. I mean, like, just the outlook was not good. And he did. He wound up getting arrested, going to jail, was in there for about 7 years. And when he got out, I would still say that I'd be like, hey, he'd be back in there for too long. And be damned if he hasn't got married, turned his life around, work. I mean, he paid his dues. Like, he couldn't even get a license for a long time. So he had to drive a moped back and forth to work at this lumber company. And he was saying like they wasn't paying him shit, but he worked his way up to a decent position there. Then he recently got on with the steel company that I worked for years that pays very well. And so now he's doing great. And I'm just like, look, I understand if you want to leave that period of time, behind you and not talk about it. But if you ever do, please let me know, because like, your story is what people need to hear, that you can come back from it.
Right.
You can go through the bad shit and still come out on top and have a good ending, because a lot of times people don't think that's possible.
No,
Well, see, but nobody wants to hear that redemption shit
Right.
at all.
listen,
That's what my entire show is.
Yeah, I know. And they don't, you know how to do it, honestly, because you never hear me say anything about redemption and changing your life and doing that. I don't say any of that. Do you have any idea? At least once a day, sometimes twice a day, sometimes it's on Instagram, sometimes it's emails. I get letters from guys that tell me how inspiring I am, how I move them, how I changed my honesty on what I did has changed them. They've taken a new leaf, that they were lying about this, or they didn't want to own up to this, and they didn't want to admit their faults, and how courageous and all these things that I'm not even trying to be.
Right.
It's in what, baby? She's over here making comments. It's like, it's amazing. And then I'll read them periodically. I read them. I'm like, listen to this. And then I read them to her, and she's like, they don't know you. And so she's not impressed.
If they knew you like I knew you.
Yeah. She's like, yeah. And I'm like, but it's funny. It's amazing, because you hear these things, and especially for somebody who's not trying. I think when you make that effort, I think it takes something away. If you just say, this is what happened, this is where I'm at, and this is how I feel now. Like I never bring it up. Guys it's always somebody like, like Lex Fridman, who's like, how do you feel now? And then they spark it. I'm like, well, I mean, now here's how I feel. Like, I didn't realize this then, I realize this now. And I don't try and say, oh, I had an epiphany and I this and I that, but somehow doing that makes people go, wow, like this has done something for them.
Right.
Which is great, because I'm not even trying. Yeah. It's being
sense.
honest about being a scumbag. People love that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I get those emails too, but the show is not, like you.
Well,
even like I said, the guy that contacted me, like in my situation, it's had guys that's experienced, being wrongfully charged and then wanting to come out and tell their stories. And to me, like, that's great, because the problem is a lot of people don't tell those stories, the fear of, whatever. So the less that they come out, then the less people know about it and realize that it's actually a thing. Because I'll be honest, before it happened to me, I always thought, if I seen somebody that got arrested, damn, good thing they got him off the street. Dirty bastard.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, if the cops, if they charge them, they have to have proof that they charge them.
Exactly.
They wouldn't fabricate a case
for no reason. They wouldn't do that.
Yeah. It's funny how it only takes subtle tweaks to an investigative file to just destroy someone. Like a little word here and a tweak here and just little things that can just destroy you. It's the difference between not being charged at all and getting 45 fucking years.
Right.
Just doesn't take much.
Yeah.
So
and a lot of times people won't understand that until they're in the middle of it and it's their name on that paper.
it's too late.
Yeah.
Too late. And then their friends and family that have known him forever are like, he did it. Well, you think Paul did it? Paul would never listen. They wouldn't have charged him if he didn't do it. It's like, oh wow, bro, you're delusional. Like that can happen. Like, listen, at least like I always say, that's the best part of being incarcerated for me was that I was so guilty. like it was like at least I should be here. Like some of these guys.
Well, I mean, I knew that the entire time. I was like, yeah, okay.
Like that guy shouldn't be here. You know, he's an asshole, but you shouldn't lock people up for being assholes.
Well, I recently did a show with Matt on my channel. It hadn't come out yet, but we were talking about his time while incarcerated. And like every story that he told me, you know, this guy done a $200 million Ponzi scheme. He had 9 years, and this guy had $100 million scheme, and he was in there for 5 years. And I'm just like, why are you so damn high? Was it just the fact that you were on the run for so long, or you
really piss some people off
in their face a little bit? Because you're a whole lot high. Look, I would do 6 years for $100 million.
Oh, I'll do $1 million right now for $1 million. I'll do a year right now. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's get it in there.
But yeah. It's funny because every time I say that, Wade, I don't think about it. Wade kept saying more than you, more times than you,
more than you,
less than you, stole more than you half the time. So I was like, he said it like 4 times. I was like, stop saying that.
But you really pissed some people off.
Yeah, and it really is the prosecutor too. Like my prosecutor really despised fraudsters, and at that time, they ran with it. First of all, the media attention, which, as cool as it was, didn't help.
It's true.
And then the economy started melting down, specifically because of mortgages. So it was really a perfect storm where they just were like, hey, look, we got an scapegoat. Let's give this fucker as much time as we can and paint him to look as bad as he possibly could look.
Use you as the poster child of doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, that was one of my quotes.
Well, that opens doors now for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, listen, when I was getting out, I was like, everybody else was trying to figure out how to bury their past, and I was like, no, I'm going to lean into it because I know I can't escape it. So I might as well just lean into it. And I just decided, like, lying and cheating and doing fraud is what got me here. And my buddy Pete used to say all the time, you cannot come to prison behaving the same way that got you here and expect to and get out and expect not to come back. So you have to make a change, a fundamental change in your belief system. And so, and it after a few years, it was like, yeah, you know what? Just lean into it. Just be honest. Just don't hide from it. Don't just lean into it. Tell people. And there's two kinds of, I've came up with the little phrase. There's 2 kinds of people, those that are 100% acceptant of the things I did and the person I am today, and those people that can go fuck themselves.
Right.
Pretty,
well, that's one of the benefits of prison. You really get to the point where I don't really give a shit what you think.
Isn't that amazing? It's amazing.
It really
like you don't seem to care at all. Well, why?
Not a bit.
Why would I care? Like that changes nothing. Your opinion, it means so little. Your opinion of me means about as much as that stick of furniture does over there.
Yep.
I just don't. It's nothing. Like my opinion of me is what matters.
That's it.
There's really only 2 or 3 people that their opinion of me matters.
And you're telling every word the truth about leaning into it. I had that exact same thought. Why would I run from it? How can you run from it in today's world? You can't.
Right.
So make the most of it. By God, that will open a door. And then once that door is open, we'll see what kind of value you've got.
See, I toyed with that like right after mine because I wasn't doing the podcast right after everything happened. So immediately I'm contacting people that I guess, had the ability to bury stuff on Google, like bury you 15 pages back. And then the guy wanted, I think at the time, like $700 for it. And I'm just like, well, let me see how this plays out. I wasn't thinking it was going to last 5 years. And he was like, well, what if it don't go the way you want? And I'm like, well, then it's really not going to matter. And so I'm not going to pay you $700 that I really need to hold on to right now. But as you know, it started progressing, then the podcast came about. I'm like, at some point, if everything goes good and I'm able to tell the story, like there's no need to try to bury it and not talk about it. You might as well just not necessarily embrace it, but use it as a tool to do what you got. Spread the word.
I mean, it gives you, it gives you a clout and a resume that no one else has.
Yes.
Yeah, it really does.
100%.
And because of that, and because all three of our experiences, we have an insight and an understanding that no one else has. We truly do. We've got a worldview that no one else has.
And all very different. Like
all very different.
To mine to Matt's. I mean, but
and it has value.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It has value because people don't understand that. People don't get that. And if you can put it into words, it becomes very valuable. And that is a paycheck. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, it's funny. I always get these people that make these comments in the comment section. And they're like, I'm amazed by your ability to make people feel at ease while telling their story. And I'm like, I think it's because I'm so non-judgmental, because I am not in a position to judge anybody. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really feel like, oh, you did get it. It must have felt reasonable at the time. Like, like I'm just not the person to be like, I can't believe you did that. Like, stop.
Yeah. Who are we to judge?
Right.
Yeah, can't do that shit. Now, I will call you out if you're lying.
No, I was going to say, not your not your interview style thus far.
But you know what? As long as the guy's legitimate, I'm good to go with him. I am. I'll let him ramble on, whatever.
What happens when what's his name? O'Hanlon?
Mm-hmm.
What happens when he gets found not guilty? Are you going to bring him back on, and are you going to bring him back on and do another video and be like, look, I messed up?
I tell you what, I will put, if he's found not guilty, I will bring that sumbitch on
and apologize.
I will apologize profusely to that fraudster that victimized all those senior citizens.
Stop it. He's helping people.
Yeah, helping them out of their money.
People helping people. My God, so judgmental.
That story kind of has like two layers to it, though. It's the brother-in-law that he pissed off, but then that parlays into all of his business problems.
Does that make any sense at all? Think about that.
Wait a second now.
9 agents sacrificed their careers so that some bitch can steal $20,000.
No. All right. You know what? I'm not even listen. That's so not what's happening. Listen, on top of that, listen, do you have any idea how many an agent will just get up and lie his ass off? Nothing happens to these people.
I know they do.
They'll get on the stand and just blatantly lie. Like nobody risks their career.
But we're talking about Bill O'Hanlon, who is later charged with theft for stealing somebody else's money. Not even the timeshare scheme.
They dropped those charges.
Yeah, because they know his ass is going fed.
No. All right, we'll see. I'm going to make you put him back on your show. I think
I promise you.
Charges.
If the dude is found not guilty with the feds, I will bring him on. Bill, I am so sorry. I am the most judgmental sumbitch ever was. I was so wrong. You, my friend, are just, you're Christ-like. You are Christ-like.
Listen. He may need, after being on your show, you may need to hook him up with Peterson. He's going to need some counseling.
I was actually kind of wondering how many people he had to defraud to put that Jacob and Company watch on his wrist.
Oh my God.
It was the way they did it for me. It was the way he put in, I need to go to the bathroom right after every intriguing question that he asked. And then it was a second time. It was like, what I would normally edit out. He leaves. Can I go to the bathroom again? We're
going to leave that shit in.
Yeah.
So mean.
He's like, you're so mean.
I
want him to be not guilty.
See, I don't
wish it on everybody. I don't wish that on anybody. Well, except for maybe some Chomo.
Well, okay. if he's guilty,
Okay.
he was guilty of defrauding senior citizens, not once, but multiple times. If
He was
he's guilty.
helping them. He was getting their
helping them
money
out of their
back.
money.
Yeah.
You know, he said that he was renting their timeshares out. He rented one total.
You're basing this off of an indictment.
I am.
Yeah, like, because the federal government wouldn't lie in an indictment. Listen. I know a guy that the DEA agent lied to the grand jury during his indictment. Okay, lied. They indict this guy, Dennis Caroni. Dennis Caroni goes to trial, loses at trial. The day he is found guilty, they indict the DEA agent for lying during lying to the grand jury to indict Caroni.
Right.
He then goes to trial, and the second day of trial, he before the trial starts that morning, puts a gun to his head and kills himself. The DEA agent.
Jeez.
The idea that the government wouldn't allow you to lie to a grand jury to get an indictment. I mean, they would lie about.
I absolutely agree. I do. I truly do. I mean, I've read the Ruby Ridge shit where the agent has the shotgun sawed off so it meets the illegal requirements. I've read all, and I agree with you. I just don't think it's happening with Bill O'Hanlon.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Fellas, I've got an interview scheduled up. I got to hop on.
All right.
More than welcome to finish out. But
I'm done.
He says, I'm done. Well, you bring Bill back on and tell him I said hello.
I'm gonna. He's got checks. He's got Discovery. We're getting to the bottom of this.
Yeah, I know you are.
All right. All right. That's it. I'm not even I am going to sign off. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I hope some people do stuff and subscribe and share stuff and join my Patreon. And if you want to check out these guys' channels, whatever.
They're in the links below.
Yeah, they're in the links
below.
Yeah, everybody's channel I'll put in the description box. I'll put the link so you can click it and go to Wade's, and maybe we'll see about what happens with Brett's.
I mean, I need guests too.
Yeah, at the rate. My guests are saying, can I come back on? Yours aren't.
Well, the ones that don't lie to me, they're more than welcome to come back.
Hey, this is Matt Cox. I'm doing a credit course. I'm doing the course because I feel like I have a lot of knowledge on the subject of repairing and building credit profiles and fixing people's credit. I've helped a ton of people do that. I've helped them build their credit, and I owned a financial company. I've seen how things work on the inside. I've spoken with underwriters. I've known the owners of lending institutions, and obviously I've built, well over probably somewhere between 50 and 100 credit profiles. I have a vast amount of experience, and I think I can help people with their credit. It's a problem a lot of people don't even understand. So go to the description box, click the link, put your email address in, and I'm going to send you 2 free letters that are they're templates that help request information on your collections and dispute those collections on your credit report. These are letters that I've used over and over again. They work 95% of the time. Now, nothing's 100%. Sometimes you're just going to get that collection company that's just going to come after you no matter what. But we will get in the course, we get into what to do if that's the case. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and, the other thing that putting in your email address, it will notify you of the course. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and talk about leveraging your credit, which is one of the things I'm going to talk about in the course. So if you get the course, you'll hear this. You'll hear much more on how to leverage your credit. And so this is really why one of the reasons you want good credit. And I'll give you an example of that I've done before that basically hopefully makes it clear. So at one point I was, I would survey guys and I would steal their identity. Clearly illegal. I'm not suggesting you do that. But this will let you know just how easy this was. And I've done this over and over again. So this was a homeless guy that one time I surveyed him. I got his credit information. I then went and ordered all of his information. I ordered his birth certificate, social security card. I ordered his high school transcripts. He has no idea that he gave me enough information. He thought he was filling out a form to determine where the Salvation Army was going to place its next homeless facility. So he filled out the form. I gave him $20. I ordered all of his documents. I got all the documents in. I registered to vote in his name. So I have very quickly, I have a ton of legitimate documents that were issued to him. I then turned around and manufactured a birth certificate for a 10-month-old child. I manufactured a shot record. I went into Social Security, told them that my son had been born and never issued a Social Security number. Now, I said my son's name was the same name as the homeless guy that I had surveyed, and his name was actually Joseph Carter. So they issued me a Social Security number to Joseph Carter. So now I have a ton of information in the name of Joseph Carter and a new Social Security number. So I used that Social Security number and his documents to obtain a driver's license. I then went ahead and I pulled his credit. He has no credit in the Social Security number that I have, and I'm sure his credit, his real Social Security number probably had bad credit. Regardless, I created a new credit profile as Joseph Carter. I then turned around and I got 3 secured credit cards in the name of Joseph Carter. Now, this is someone who has no credit. Once I got those secured credit cards in, I put a little bit of money, and these are very small. These are $300, $500 credit cards. But they show up on his credit profile now. I make the payments on those credit cards for the next 6 months. So 6 months later, so now I've got a credit profile with 3 trade lines, credit cards, on the profile. 6 months later, I pulled his credit, and it had like a 730, 750 credit score, something along those lines. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was high. And it was so high, and because I had answered all the questions correctly to acquire the secured credit cards, I had built the profile so solidly that 6 months later, when he had the 730 or 750 credit scores, I walked into a Ford dealership. I'll never forget. I walked in with a girl I was dating. We were driving to the movies, and I said, "Hey, listen, let's pull in. I need to get a car, like a new car actually, because I had a vehicle." And I said, "I need to pull in. I need to get a new car." So I pulled in. There was a couple of salespeople. One guy stood up and I said, "Hey man, you want to sell a car real quick?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Listen, I want to buy a truck." So we walked down the lot. I found I want to say it was an F-150 4x4. I want to say it was called a Laredo, or I'm not sure what the style was, but it was a crew cab, nice. It was around $55,000. We drove the vehicle right down the street. He wanted to take me on a whole driving around the city type thing. I said, no, bro, I'm good. We drove down the street, turned around, came back, didn't even go, it wasn't even a half a mile. Pulled back in, I said, "Let me fill out the paperwork." I filled out the paperwork, gave him the name, date of birth, social security number, told him that I'd been on the job 5 years, whatever the case may be, that I had set up. Had a pay stub with me, gave him the pay stub, and told him we were going to the movies. If he could get me financed within the next 2 hours, I said, I'll come back and pick up the car or the truck. And he said, all right. I went to the movies, and just as the movie was ending, my cell phone rang, and he said, come pick up your truck. I drove straight back there with the girl I was dating, walked in, filled out the paperwork, didn't put one dime down, and financed that vehicle. Now, here's the funny thing about financing that vehicle. The payment was like $1,200 a month. I made one payment and refinanced with State Farm Insurance's bank. The State Farm is an insurance company. I actually got my insurance through State Farm. But they also, because I had insurance through them on the vehicle, a month later, they offered to refinance the truck. My original interest rate was like 24% interest. It was outrageous. They brought it down to like 8% interest. So my payment went from $1,200 down to around $700 or $800 on that vehicle. I didn't put a dime down, not a dime. That whole transaction took less than 2 hours. And all I did was I leveraged a 750 credit score to get myself into a new truck. And listen, over the next 6 months to a year, I got multiple credit cards in Joseph Carter's name with $20,000, $30,000 credit limits. I got personal loans in his name. And, on a side note that I won't be getting into, I borrowed a couple $1 million in his name on mortgages, which we're not going to be discussing. But I was able to leverage, in 6 months, I was able to leverage that credit that I had put together to borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars with nothing down other than putting up the minor deposits to get the secured credit cards and knowing how to answer the questions that were being asked by the lenders. And that's really all it is. It's a very simple formula, and I'm going to go over all of that in the credit course. So click the link, put in your email address.